If you were just kind of that strange personality, but a good operator, there was usually a place for you.
Do the squad, because you're talking about moving guys around, do the squadrons, do they have kind of distinct personalities and culture, or is it, so you're
Yeah.
shaking your head, yeah. So what's kind of,
Yeah.
can you give a breakdown of like, in your opinion, what kind of separates them?
This is a weird one, dude. I mean, I would love to study this because the squadrons had their own personalities, the troops had their own personalities, and yet when you worked with them, it really didn't exist. Like one of the troop that I had before I got there, their nickname were the Rats on Acid because we hit everything hard. You know what I mean? It was the old number six. Boom, we hit it. Speed, surprise, violence of action. Those are the three tenets of close quarters battle. That's what we did. Speed, surprise, violence of action. Every single one. That was our go-to, and we were just very aggressive. Everyone was like super fit. Not that these troops weren't, but there were troops that are a little bit more sophisticated and intellectual, like tactical questioning. There were troops that would spend a lot of time talking to the detainee and trying to get information, and we were just like, tell us what we want to know. He's not telling us. We're moving on to the next one. So when you this is an interesting thing when you come in as a leader, you're like, okay, this is interesting with officers because you're in and out. You do a couple years with each, with a unit, if it's a troop or a squadron or whatever. So you have to make that decision of who bends. Do I bend to their personality or do they bend to my personality? Or, can you suss out these things that are good or bad? Like, if are we too aggressive? So that was one of the things when I came in on that particular troop. It was like, okay, this troop is, man, their success rate is 99.9%. So whatever they're doing works. It seems awfully aggressive. It seems awfully violent, a little bit more than some of these other troops, but it's working. So when I come in as the leader of that organization, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to watch it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to have these open discussions with the team leaders and the other leaders and just say, hey man, this is the perception from the outside, or these are the things that I'm looking at. We need to be adult enough to recognize our own warts, our own sacred cows, and that type of thing. So that's $1 million question. There are distinct personalities in teams, in troops, in squadrons, and yet it's very, very difficult to pull it out and recognize it.
I have two questions left for you on the Delta front. One, and I'm going to ask this one first. I think this is a good one. When you look back at your career, is there any mission you can talk about that you say that I'm most proud of that? Like one that you're actually able to discuss. When you look back, you're like, man, I'm so proud. Maybe even if I wasn't like the boss of it, I was indirectly involved. And I'm just, from a historical standpoint or an effort, I'm just so glad that I got to be a part of that.
Wow. Yeah, I think probably the one that I'm most proud of is this one I keep talking about that had a presidential involvement, cross-border operation, and I can't talk about that one. And it wasn't just, like I said, the precision of it all and the mission accomplishment. It was really understanding, hey, this op had been on the go list for years, and we never got final approval. So really understanding the strategy and all of that. So that one stands apart. And then they just all kind of blend together. Oh, okay. There was one. Okay, yeah, there is one in Afghanistan where the one of the biggest difficulties in Afghanistan was getting your opponent to fight. So anytime you had foreign fighters in Afghanistan or foreign fighters in Iraq, like, you knew it. They stood and fight. They were there to bang, you know. But the Iraqis that lived there, the Afghans that lived there, man, they didn't want to die. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to go up against us. So you constantly had to set these conditions where they thought they had the upper hand, you know. And so one of the times when I was in Afghanistan, I'm studying when the Afghans would attack. Like what was precipitating them to attack? And that was the thing. It was like, oh, vulnerabilities. And one of the things that I looked at was these Marines were infilled and they had two sniper positions that weren't supportable. They should have been. They thought they were, but they weren't. And the Afghans recognized that weakness, and they basically massed and enveloped these Marines and wiped them out. And I remember looking at that and being disappointed. A, the tactical mistake that the Marines made. B, the rules of engagement. So the Marines also didn't engage with these Afghans because the Afghans weren't showing the aggressiveness. They had weapons on them, but they were like circling them, you know what I mean, and surrounding them. And by the time the Marines felt like they had reached the rules of engagement, it was already too late. And I think it was 8 Marines that got killed. Um, and as Delta Force, one of the things in Afghanistan towards the end, we knew we weren't going to win that war. Like that, we weren't there to win the war in Afghanistan. We recognized that we had lost the national will. My job was to protect the soldiers and airmen and sailors that were on the ground. You know what I mean? In harm's way. And my other job was vengeance. You fuck with us, we're gonna fuck with you. And when those Afghans killed those Marines, I took that personally. Who do you think you are? You have the balls to do that? And this was in a far away region in the northwest part of Afghanistan that we weren't even working. But I made it a point to say, we're gonna avenge those Marines. And I see what you did there, and we're gonna try to sucker you in to do it again. So we did just that. We hit a village, we got the people that we were going after, and then we did a false exfil. So we got on the CH-47 and we jumped off. So the enemy, the Afghans that were observing us, they saw us get on the helicopters, but they didn't see us get off. We jumped out of the doors with the miniguns on it, and then we scattered through the village and we hid, and we left a couple of operators on these rooftops, 2 sniper positions that could be observed. They weren't like walking around, but it was like, hey, we know the Afghans, and we're monitoring what the Afghans are. They're talking on, push to talk radios, Radio Shack, little handies, and they see our guys, and they're communicating and saying, oh, hey, they left, and it looks like they left, two-man teams behind. Let's go get them. And they replicated that same strategy that they did with the Marines a few weeks earlier. And they massed on us with motorcycles and vehicles, like by the hundreds. And we popped up out of the village, and it was a turkey shoot. And I'm proud of that because we recognized how they were fighting, and we beat them at their own game. I'm proud of that because the restraint, our guys waited until like the enemy was right on top of us. Um, and we avenged those young Marines. So yeah, that one sticks out in my head as a huge success.